Yeah, it's been a long time, actually. Yeah.
It's been
All
a little
right.
while, right?
Live. Live. Actually, I saw Michael live
Yeah,
just
you
just like,
did.
a month ago. A month ago? 2 months ago.
Yeah, Jimmy, I tell you, it was a few months ago, and I gotta say, man, I wish you had seen us at a different show because we unfortunately had uh, a lot of monitor issues. I went out there, and it was Oz's voice was so loud, it was literally excruciatingly painful, and man, I could hardly get through that show in terms of monitors. So I'm sorry you had to see that. Hopefully we did okay, but it's like, that was a rough one.
Can I
Wow.
tell you what I did notice standing on the side? I just noticed it's very similar to Iron Maiden, the Stryper family. They're really hardcore fans. Like you see a lot. It's all of a sudden I'd see people with jean jackets with Stryper on the back, and
Oh yeah,
like you could see the hardcore Stryper fans everywhere. It's just a sight to see. That's
man,
what
I
I
got a
saw.
little excited. I got a little excited because I thought I could have swore you were going to say, I noticed standing on the side that you have a very nice butt. But
Well, he did. He did mention that when he got back at home here. He did say that.
oh man, well, you know what? You're right, Jimmy. I think it is uh, kind of similar. Obviously, much smaller scale, but it is. And you know what's interesting? Real quick, Iron Maiden story. We played with Iron Maiden in Spain. It was Lacuna Coil, Dream Theater,
Oh,
Stryper, and Iron Maiden.
wow.
And Maiden was the headliner, and we had to close the show. We went on after Maiden, but we weren't the headliner. And we were peeing our pants because it's Maiden and you got to follow Maiden. And they had full production. We lost the airlines. Iberia Airlines lost our luggage, so we didn't have the right clothes. We didn't have our gear. So we borrowed gear. Our management was with us. They went out and bought us clothes. We went on, and where I'm going with this is a lot of the Maiden people who had all the Maiden shirts on stuck around and watched us. And half of the crowd was Maiden shirts, and half of the crowd was Stryper shirts. And when I say crowd, I'm talking about 8,000 people. 10, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
it was insane. It blew my mind. But everyone stayed for Stryper, and they were singing along. And I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head with that statement.
And you guys did have a great performance, but that's what live music's all about. Monitors going out, and you still had a great performance. And I think all eyes were on the stage when you guys went on. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, and I think you asked the question, how many people have seen Stryper before? And like half the crowd didn't.
I know.
And that is actually pretty cool because you had a new audience just sitting there, right?
Yeah, very cool. I always ask that question. I've been asking it since we reformed in '03. It started playing again in '03, and ever since then I've asked that question live every single night. And it's interesting because back in '03 a few hands would go up who have never seen us. 3, 4, 5, 10, maybe 15. Now it's half the crowd,
Oh, wow.
and it's really interesting. There's a lot of new people coming out to see the band.
Yeah, it's pretty
Well,
amazing.
let's talk about when we were kings. All killer, no filler, I think is what you called it. And again, you guys hit it out of the ballpark with this one. I have to say, it's my first couple of listens, I thought it was okay, it's not as heavy as the Final Battle, the previous ones, but after my third or fourth listen, wait a minute, this is one of the heaviest ones in a while.
It is. It's heavy in a different sort of way. It may not be heavy in speed or heavy in wow 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 take it to the cross style stuff. But it's still heavy, and it's got the chug heavy guitars maybe more than ever. And what I love about it is uh, if you're a musician, you understand this. A lot of the verses are in a minor progression, a minor key, and a little darker. But then when it gets to the choruses, it goes to a major key, and it becomes a little lighter, for lack of a better term, a little more anthemy, sing along, make you feel good. Then when it goes back to the verse, it gets a little darker and chuggier. So that was purposely done.
That's actually, I could tell you where you're doing there's a lot of little key changes happening throughout the song, little nuances. In God We Trust, I don't think it sounds like In God We Trust, but it's got that anthem-like harmonies, as not all the songs, but a few of the songs have
Yep.
that In God You Trust anthemic choruses.
For sure. 100%. And again, purposely done. And the reason why, a lot of people over the years have said, man, give us more anthems. Give us more of that anthem type of stuff. And I'm like, okay, we'll give you that. Here you go. And we really listen to the fans. I like to actually post questions and get the fan response, and not only get it, but actually, give the fans what they want. Because let's face it, if it wasn't for the fans, none of us, no band would have a career. The fans make you who you are. And if you block that out and you say, I'm going to do what I want to do, and you don't listen to the fans, you're really shooting yourself in the foot, and you're alienating yourself from your fans. And that's not a good position to be in my opinion.
And again, it's like the classic Stryper sound, but there's a new twist. It's like modern. And that's something I've noticed on every album, especially the most recent ones. There's always something different. You are not repeating yourself. It's not formulaic at all. Every album stands on its own, and it brings something new as far as I'm concerned.
That's really cool. Really cool that you say that. And I'll tell you this, it's a balancing act, trying to appease the fans and appease yourself. Please the fans and please yourself. It's really difficult. And I want to please the fans. We want to please the fans, and we want to please ourselves. So we want to feel good about the music and be happy, but we want the fans to be happy too. We've evolved. We're not the Stryper of '86. We never will be ever again. We're not ashamed of that. We just won't be that. And we're a new band now. We're a new Stryper. This is Stryper 2024. And hopefully everyone's still on board that was on board before. And there's new people coming on board now with the new sound. There's little bits of modern, music in there. You can hear little things here and there, but not too much. We're not a modern rock band. We don't want to be, but we want to step into 2024 and not sound like 1986 again,
Yeah. I should say Stryper When We Were Kings is going to be released September 13th, 2024 via Frontiers Music, right? That's a big plug for that today. They could pre-order now, right, Michael?
They can pre-order now anywhere you can pre-order music. Yeah, obviously on Apple, iTunes. You can pre-order through Amazon. Anywhere that has the album, you can pre-order right now. The only song available is End of Days. We had to do a switch around. We were going to release When We Were Kings as the next music video, but we had to switch that around because of scheduling, and it was just too tight to pull that off. So we're releasing Love Symphony as the next single. And then after that, and I hope I'm not giving away too much information, but oh well. It's going to be When We Were Kings as a music video, and that's going to be killer. What we're doing is compiling a lot of old footage and photographs, and they're going to take you on a journey of what it was like in the heyday of Stryper. Going to be cool.
Yeah.
That's the phrase, right?
Yeah. Does that tie into the documentary?
It kind of does. Yeah. It's not part of the documentary, but it certainly is very similar to what you might find in the documentary. It's going to what the lyric is about. Some people are kind of freaking out a little bit, saying, "Hey, what are you saying? That you guys were kings? Like you're putting yourself on the pedestal with Christ? What is this?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Only on the weekends.
What we're talking about, what the song's referring to, is we're reminiscing in a positive way about when we were kings, when we were on top. Remember the good old days when we were doing this and doing that, playing arenas and going from gold to platinum and platinum to double platinum, and those were amazing days. And that's what the song's about. just reminiscing, like sitting around talking about that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When we were kings is actually an expression that artists use that back in the heyday, that's kind of what that expression means. I think MTV coined it a long time ago when we were kings back in the day, or somebody did or another.
Exactly.
But,
and that's what it means. That's what the song means. It's not a religious statement. The cover shows, 4 angelic beings that may look a little similar to us in some ways and maybe not. And Christ is in the middle, and we all have crowns, and people are like, oh my gosh. One guy said, this is blasphemous. How dare you? I'm like, that's not what it means. It's like people jump to the gun so often, and they assume that you're trying to say this when you're actually trying to say that,
Yeah, and as a title track, I mean, you got everything you expect from Stryper, right? You got the harmonies, you got the dual leads. It's a great song, and I find your vocals on this album a little bit more restrained and nuanced than some of the past albums or stuff you've done, like in Sunbomb.
Well, I'll tell you why. It's interesting. First of all, when I do Stryper, any Stryper album, I'm always trying to take a little bit of a more of a Michael Sweet approach versus a Michael Sweet and Stryper approach versus Michael Sweet in another project approach. That's always tricky, because that mentality is going through, that mental process is going on in your head where you're like, when I did the covering album with Stryper and I'm singing Dio or I'm singing Scorpions, I'm trying to sing like Klaus or I'm trying to sing like Dio. And it's like, I finally said to myself, just sing like you, just stop.
Yeah.
That's what you deal with as a singer when you're trying to sing songs. But anyway, that aside, I was coming off of the heels of my surgery. So that was the first time I sang since my surgery. That was in December. And the doctor said, in 2 months, you should be okay. Well, 2 months is when I started singing right here in my studio behind the camera here. And I was nervous, man. I'm not going to lie. I came down here and I was like, it was hard for me to press record and to start singing.
Wow.
Because I just felt like, what's going to happen? How am I going to feel? Is it going to sound okay? Is it going to sound weird? I have no clue. So I started singing. And once I started singing, after a few hours, I realized, like, I think I'm going to be okay. But I think still to a degree, I might have held back a little bit out of caution. I didn't want to push too much. But I think that actually somehow worked for this album. And so far, everyone seems to like what they're hearing. There's still the haters out there that don't like my voice and never will. Like, your friend Jimmy, what's his name?
Tanvir.
Yeah. Who said my voice was demonic,
What?
Look it. You never
haters, Alan. Haters, Alan.
Well,
I don't like it.
And that's okay. The thing is, what was his name again?
Tanvir. We can just insult him right here and now, but we won't.
Look, the deal is, if he and I sat down and had dinner together, we'd probably be best buddies.
Of course.
But that aside, I understand. I have a very interesting voice. It's very unique. Love it or hate it, that's fine. If you don't like it, I get it. If I was not in Stryper, I might hate my voice too. It's very operatic. It's I'm very over dramatic. But you know what? And I'm not comparing myself to Dio, but not everyone loved Dio's voice either. I have friends that can't stand Dio's voice because they thought he was over dramatic, and I'm like, all right, hey, to each his own. I have friends that can't stand Rob Halford's voice. They can't listen to Priest because of his voice.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get it. But I'm not here to please everybody. I'm here to please the fans. I'm here to please myself. And at the end of the day, I've been successful, and nobody can take that away from me,
Well, let me tell you. Okay, go ahead, Alan. Go.
No, go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say Grateful. So for all the ladies out there, there's a slow
Yo.
song, it's Grateful. And let me tell you, man, your voice on that song, I haven't heard vocals like that since the 80s. Like, we're talking about stretching out your vocals and melodic and slow song. I wouldn't call it a ballad. I call it more of a slow song, emotional, dramatic. Let me tell you, get any singer today to sing that song. There's very few who can do that.
Oh man. Well, thank you.
No, you know what? Look, I'm biased. What can I tell you? I'm biased. What can I tell you? I'm biased. What am I going to tell you, man?
A great positive message too in that song. So
those are big words, and I tell you what, guys, that's the song that was written and recorded strictly for the fans that have kept saying for years, give us more songs like Calling on You. A little more of that poppy vibe, melodic vibe, not so heavy. That's what that song was all about. And it wound up, at first I didn't love the song. I mean, I liked it. I didn't love it. But now it's one of my favorite songs. I find myself repeating that song more often than maybe some of the others. That one, Love Symphony, When We Were Kings. I love Rhyme of Time. I love
you nailed it. For me, Rhyme of Time is it's a deep track, but it's the hidden gem on the album.
It's the Dawkins track. It's the Dawkins track.
It's got, somebody said in our camp, I can't recall who it was. It might have been Oz, but I'm not 100% certain of that. That it kind of reminded them in a weird way of Crocus. Not my voice, but maybe the dark, minor vibe of it. And I thought, well, that's cool. That's not a bad thing.
No, Mark Storacci's got one of the most incredible voices out there.
I love Crocus. Love him. Always have. So, I mean, it is definitely an interesting track. And it's not one of the singles. It'll get released, I think, on release date for the album. I think that's going to be like a featured track. But yeah, that's a cool song, man. That's one of my favorites.
Alan, I was going, this sounds like, I couldn't put my finger on what it sounds like. And I go, this sounds like 80s Dawkins. Like these big chorus anthemic Dawkins. Put on Dawkins, you're going to say, that's Dawkins under lock and key or something like that. Or maybe.
Well, and I tell you, I love Dawkins, always have. They were one of my favorite 80s bands, along with Rat. LA bands, you know what I mean? Definitely. I was a big fan of those guitars, ripping guitars and chug and crunch, but melody.
Yeah.
Great songs melodically. Yeah, I love that. I would eat that stuff up, and that's what I listen to. That's why, and I'm not kissing Canada's butt. That's why I'm a big fan of Loverboy. I love those guys.
Oh man, great voice.
Mike Reno, yeah.
Mike Reno's amazing. Alan?
Absolutely.
But what was the thinking between having Love Symphony as the second release?
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. We ran that through the camp, and everyone kind of flipped out over that song in a way that they felt like it would bring in new fans. That's one, if you had to pick one song out of all the songs on the album, that's one that probably has the most modern flavors and vibe to it. It's got a little bit more of that modern crossover, but it still has a classic thing too. So that's why we went with it. And just love the song, the message. It's really interesting. If you read the lyrics, it's really, really cool lyrics, and just a different vibe musically. It's got a lot of tempo changes.
And right at the end, what do you change keys at the end, or what do you do there at the end?
Well,
you change minor to major, or what are you doing?
I'm trying to think of what it does at the end. It goes.
No, right on the when you're singing the chorus, right, the last chorus, you sort of flip. I don't know if you go a third or.
You know what, brother? I'd have to put on a guitar to tell you exactly, but it again, that's one that. The verses are in minor, the choruses are in major. Yeah, it kind of gets to that big, everyone raise your hands, kind of anthem-y chorus style.
Well, you know what? It's funny because you send the songs to us, right? And then I responded back to you saying, I just heard it and I love Symphony right off the bat. You didn't say nothing. When We Were Kings and Love Symphony, I go, these songs are amazing. And he goes, those are our next 2 singles. I go, it's just, it's like, I should be your A&R guy. No.
Well,
I'm gonna tell everybody this. Here's a teaser for everyone. These songs are big anthemic songs, and you'll love them. That's what.
And it's funny because Alan said, "Why did you choose that one?" And here's the thing: we kind of passed it around the camp. And when I say the camp, I'm talking about maybe 20, 25 people, label, band, management, and everyone kind of gave their list, and everyone loved Symphony, When We Were Kings, End of Days. Rhyme of Time, Betrayed by Love. There were like 5 or 6 songs that everyone said yes, 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 and yes. So that's always a sure sign of, okay, we better go with that stuff.
And you know, the more one of the songs that grew on me, Trinity. I mean, I love the drums, and there's an overall groove there that I would say is kind of new for Stryper, and perhaps maybe the best solo on the album for myself.
Yeah, that's a cool tune, man. That definitely a very cool tune. It harkens back a little bit to the old days. It's got a little bit more of that classic sound, you know. And it's a cool tune, man. It's definitely metal for sure. Kind of makes you go, yeah. But you know, not a lot of people, and that's great that you love it. That's fantastic. But not a lot of people, at least in the camp, came back with that one. You know what I mean? So
maybe it's the dark horse of the album.
That goes from the studio guys to the band to the label. There's like 20 people at the label, management. So I'm probably talking more like 40, 45 people. No one came back with that one. And
Alan, look at you.
Song. I love it.
No, but it's like I said, it really grew on me. It's like the 4th or 5th listen. I'm like, hey, wait, listen to this. I mean, just the overall groove.
Oh yeah,
you know?
no, totally. I love that bum 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 bow, bum 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 bow, bum bum bow, like that. That's really cool. That makes you go, whoa, what's this? Oh, for sure.
This
Raptured
is actually,
almost, for myself, Raptured almost has a bit of a grungy feel to it.
It's a little funky.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It maybe even is a song that Extreme could do, you know? It's got that funk vibe to it. What's their song? Something about funk. What's the name of it?
Get the funk out.
Get the funk out, yeah.
It's kind of got a little funky vibe, but you know, again, it's a cool song. But you know, the standouts, I think we try to go with what we think everyone's gonna pick as a standout, and we're usually pretty good about it. But sometimes we're off, but usually we're pretty on.
You know, I hate to say this, and I know you hate to say this. You know, when you say, "What do you think about your new album?" You go, "This is the best album I've ever done." It's tough because it probably ranks as one of your, I don't want to say this. I'm going to say this is a very good album. It's just as good as the last album because I really love the last album too. It might be a little bit better in some ways because maybe it's heavier. The production is a lot better this album than the last one.
I think so. I think the production is great. Yeah.
It's crunchy, man. It's a crunchy metal production. I mean, if the End of Days, if that's what it sounds like, the production, right? If everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
What do you say? What do you say? This is my favorite album of all time. What do you say to that?
Well, here's the thing. I do. I absolutely do. And I'll tell you why I do. Because I really believe that it is. And here's the deal. When I listen to this latest Stryper album, I'll go back and listen to older Stryper albums. I'll listen to something from Fallen. And then from Goddamn Evil, I'll listen to something from Even the Devil Believes, No More Hell to Pay. And then I'll listen to something from Final Battle. And that all sounds really good and cool. But this has a little extra special sauce on it. I'm not sure what it is, but it maybe just because it's fresh and new. I don't know. But I really think that we certainly haven't gone backwards.
No, not at all.
We haven't gone down a step or a level. That's I think we're certainly right there with all those other albums, but I think maybe even a little beyond those albums. And time will tell if fans agree. But the goal is for me and the band to make our best album. I don't think we have yet. I think we're getting better as we go. I think all these recent albums blow away the past. I know people get mad at me for saying that. That's okay. Those people have memories that are tied to those albums and nostalgia that's tied to those albums. But we blew away To Hell with the Devil and In God We Trust 3 or 4 times already. And I wish we could go in a time machine and release The Final Battle in 1987.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been 4 or 5 platinum in terms of sales. We'll never know. We can't do that. But that's how good I think the new stuff is. This new album, if we could go back in a time machine and release it, you know, a year after To Hell with the Devil, I think people would have been like, what the, you know, but all those memories go along with those albums. So you can't change people's minds. You just can't.
It's like you said, since reforming, it's Stryper 2.0 kind of thing, right? It's you can't compare to the past, but you've created something new moving forward.
I think so. And only a few bands have done that, in my opinion. Maybe more than a few. Few is 2 or 3, right? Maybe 5, 6 metal bands.
Yeah.
One is Priest. Totally. Their new albums in the past few albums hold their own against anything in the past, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Rat did it. Rat did it. What's that?
Accept, I would say Accept would be part of that.
100%. Their albums sound, you put them on, it's like they haven't skipped a beat.
Yeah.
Rat did it. And you know, quite a few years back, they released an album, phenomenal. And then you got bands like oh gosh, who am I thinking of?
Testament.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not that familiar with Testament to be able to say yay or nay.
All right.
So that wouldn't be fair.
But I think they've gotten better. That's what my point.
Yeah. But there was another band that I was thinking of who most definitely, Saxon.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
Yeah, great example.
Saxon is hitting it out of the park.
Yeah.
Their new albums hold their own against their old albums. So there's only a handful of bands that do that. And, you know, I'll get grief for this. It'll be on Blabbermouth. Michael Sweet says they're as good as Saxon. You know, I think Stryper's in that on that list.
Yeah, I agree.
But
when
if
the
I
way you're
say
phrasing
if I say it myself, I'm a dick. You know.
We were lucky. Biff Byford was our first guest ever that we interviewed live. They were testing the water for Call to Arms, getting their toes in the North American water. And like you said, look at the career they've had here in North America and their albums they released since. It's like having a second career all over again. So
they're phenomenal. They sound so good, man. See, they really do. And they sound great live.
Oh, you don't want to follow them live.
Yes, they're amazing.
Don't
other bands
follow
I played with at all these festivals that blew my mind. Europe sounds great. Yeah. You know, they still sound every bit as good as they did, in my opinion. Crocus sounds amazing live.
Yeah,
mind blowing. But then you hear some bands, it's like, you know, you hear their new album and you hear them live, and it's like, ugh, you know. And I'm not going to get into naming names or going down that road at all. But you know who I'm talking about. We all know it. We all have ears. We're smart. We can figure it out, you know.
What about all this? Like, I mean, you've talked about this before. Maybe I shouldn't ask this question, but okay. The bands are aging out there. We're all getting old. They're coming on, and they're kind of using the word backing tracks as sort of like, that word is kind of being misused, and it means actually lead vocals, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
I know you've commented about these things before, but it's kind of disappointing, right? I mean, is that the time to call it quits when your lead vocals are the backing? That's you're miming basically.
Well,
completely?
The thing is, when you mention you use some form of backing tracks, instantly you're put into that category as Milli Vanilli.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. Stryper's a band that has used some backing tracks. Songs like Yahweh, we've got backing tracks. It's not rocket science. If you can't figure out Oz and Perry aren't singing a freaking 100-person choir, then something's wrong. And it's like, we use some backing tracks on some songs, but we don't overuse them. There's no lead vocals that are canned. There's no lead guitar solos that are canned. We're up there singing. When you hear the background vocals come out, Oz and Perry are singing. Their mics aren't freaking, the cables aren't dangling from the mics, you know? And it's like, sadly, I think a lot of bands do overuse tracks, and they're not performing live enough with the tracks. So that's where it becomes convoluted. And all these other bands that I think do it right, they get kind of lumped into that, you know, bash this band for using any form of track. I mean, I made a point about Queen using tracks on Bohemian Rhapsody back in the 70s. And people are like, "Wow, it's not the same. They walked off the stage." Look, they were still using tracks.
Yeah.
And it's like, nobody had a problem with that because they did it right. You know, there was no canned lead vocals, and they were still performing live. But the bands that you see where the something happens with the tracks and they can't perform, or they're on stage and their guitar gets unplugged and the guitar solo is still coming out and stuff like that. That's like, come on, guys. Come on. But
I paid how much did I pay for this? I could have seen this in my basement.
I mean, but you know, we are heading in that direction. I mean, I think we're heading in a direction with AI where so much is going to be computer generated in the studio and on the stage. We're going down that road, man, fast.
Yeah. That's worrisome.
Oh yeah. So I think that's only going to open the door for more track usage, and it's going to get to a point. I mean, I find it hilarious, and it's no disrespect to Eddie Trunk. Eddie's a friend of mine. I love Eddie. He's been so good to us. But, you know, sometimes, you know, he'll make a comment about it's live music, and I'm sitting there thinking, no, they're using tracks. You know, you could, I know when a band's using tracks, you know, and not in good or bad. I don't have a problem with it if they're doing it right. But if there's pristine vocals, the guys are running all over the stage and you hear just pristine angelic vocals coming out, probably tracked.
It's like magic. Michael, I compare it to magic. You know, you go see a magic and the magician cuts the lady in half and they go, look, and you think he actually cut the lady in half, right?
Yeah.
But it's magic. And then people go, but he sounded live. But it's magic. You know, it's magic. I mean, he recorded them live and then he's using them in this setting to make it look like it's live, right?
That's right.
And he's got a hot mic and he throws in a couple of, hey, how you doing in there? You know, and
no, totally. You're right, Jimmy. It is magic. And the same thing, here's the thing that's hilarious is you got wrestling. And you know, I'm dear friends with Chris Jericho. Everybody knows that, you know, but wrestling is they're real athletes. Those guys are training and busting their asses and getting beat up and getting hurt. But it's also, there's a dramatic side and a bit of a theater side to it as well. And we all know that. And that's what's so awesome about it. But it kind of applies to music as well, to a degree. Yeah. It's the same thing, you know, a lot of pyrotechnics and, you know, outfits and lights and fog and, you know, guitar shooting rockets out of the headstock. And this is all stuff we don't have a problem with. That's part of the show. I think if you use tracks as part of the show in a way to just basically, you know, add just a little icing on the cake, that's okay. As long as it's not the cake. Some bands make it the cake.
Yeah.
And that's going too far.
You know, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and we'll go on touch on some other topics. There's a lot of people texting here. Maybe I'll grab a question that's interesting. One thing that's been going around, actually what's been happening in the United States, is the separation of religion and state, right? In Louisiana, as you know, they want to, in the public schools, every public school, I believe, and I guess grade school, I would think, I'm not sure if it's high school or not, they're going to put 10 Commandments, some sort of plaque that can be read in every public school. Have they gone too far, Michael? Or is this okay? I mean, obviously it's unconstitutional, right? But maybe the state can do whatever they want, or maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe the people of Louisiana say, you know what, we're okay with it. I mean, what do you think about all this?
Well, I think, obviously, whatever you try to bring in to any system, whether it's the school system or the government system or anything, when you take a stand for something that not everyone agrees with or accepts, you're going to have haters, you're going to get flack, and you're going to, people are going to rebel against that. That's why people always say to Stryper, they say, I always read these comments, don't mix religion with music. And I laugh at that, but it's like, this is what we've done since frickin' 1984.
Yeah.
What do you mean? This is what we're all about.
People unclear of the concept.
But that's okay. It's not unconstitutional to play, talk about Jesus in your music. Right?
No, okay. I understand that. But I mean, people give us flack for doing so, and they hate us. They won't listen to us. They won't even listen to 30 seconds of a song because of that.
That's true.
And I'm like, wow, that's pretty shallow-minded, in my opinion. But in terms of 10 Commandments in the school, I don't really know a lot about that. It's something I'll have to research and read up on. I do know this. Just about everything else is allowed in schools right now. Children basically pledging allegiance to a rainbow flag, that's okay. That's perfectly acceptable. I mean, so why can't the 10 Commandments be in there? Why can't the Bible be in there? That's where I have a problem. It's like, if we're going to allow everything else, then you have to allow everything else.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Or not.
Or not.
I guess at the end of the day, the courts will figure it out, right? I guess.
Well, the problem is our court systems are so freaking, corrupt and screwed up. Our government's corrupt and screwed up, and we all know that. It's like I was just doing an interview yesterday, and I just can't believe that our two options here in the USA for president are Biden and Trump. Those are our two options out of all the people in the US.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
But see, this is the way the system works. It's very difficult to figure it out. Very difficult because, these people do control the system. And you vote, everyone says, get out and vote, get out and vote, get out and vote. Does your vote really matter? You got to wonder. You got to wonder. I vote, and I'm not discouraging people from voting. I'm just saying it does sometimes often feel rigged on both sides and from both sides. It's sad, but it's the way it is. And we talk about this all the time when we're sitting in back of the house with the fire going. We talk about all this stuff, Yeah. I don't even know what road I'm going down here. I'm going to get a lot of grief from this. Man.
For the people, by the people.
But Michael, you're not saying anything wrong. You're saying, is this all we got? A and B? Is this all we have out of 350 million people? This is all we could get. This is all we got.
I bet if you walk the streets, and of the world, not just the U.S., the world, and you ask this question, I bet you it would be probably 75 or 80% people would agree. Like, yeah, this is crazy. I mean, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, you guys watched the debate? I was just sitting there going, what is this?
It's
I thought it was about
What's
the golf
happening?
game.
It's a comedy hour.
Holy mackerel. But you know, this is what we're told to believe.
Yeah.
There you go.
Alan? Yeah, well, we could.
Hey,
we
let's
could-
get. You know, I was surprised to see the Acousticize was released last February, and wow, I didn't even know that was out. Where can we?
Where you
purchase
been,
that?
Alan? Where you been
I'm
under a
interested.
rock? Or
I
what's
know,
going on?
geez.
It is funny. I don't think a lot of people know what's out. What happened with that, we talked about doing an acoustic album for years. We finally did. And we started on that almost 7 years ago.
Wow.
It took us a long time to finish it because we wanted to bring Perry into it. We never had the time. We finally had the time. We did it, got his bass tracks, vocal tracks on there. And we released it on our own through our own label. And we called it Acousticized. A limited edition, limited run. Then we got the interest of our old label mate who signed us, Bill Hine. He ran Enigma Records, signed Stryper. He loved it, wanted to release it. So we did a deal with his company called Flatiron, and they re-released it under the name To Hell with the Amps.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
you did it to Hell with the Amps tour, didn't you?
We did a To Hell with the Amps tour. Oz was not able to do that tour, unfortunately, because of his surgery. He wasn't really feeling, ready to go and up to par. And everything was already rolling. We had everything in place. So we went out and we did it with Perry, myself, Robert, and then we hired a guy by the name of Will Dowdy, who plays for Poison, keyboard player, singer, amazing talent, amazing person. And we went out and did it a little differently, and I learned some extra guitar parts, and I was sweating extra sweat, every night. But we did it, and it wasn't the same, but it was really cool. And everyone seemed to really enjoy that. We had a great time, good turnouts. It was something different. Just low stress, 5-minute sound checks. We were sitting on stools. It was just storyteller, very, very unique.
What about remixes of the earlier albums? Let's say, I know Rich asked me to ask this question to you. A remaster or a remix of the Yellow and Black Attack, or maybe Soldiers Under Command, maybe a remix of that. And with AI today, you can actually remove each track. You could separate everything and then remix everything. So that's becoming very popular. So AI does have a lot of bad stuff, but it has some good stuff, because if you don't have the masters, you can sort of like do it yourself in a sense.
For sure. Yeah. Well, we're working on it. Basically, long story short, we did a deal with Hollywood Records, which is Disney, back in 1991, 92. And released Can't Stop the Rock on that label, and they purchased our catalog from Enigma. So they still control our catalog, but everything started reverting back to the band. So we now have some albums that have reverted back, that we have ownership of. And once we get everything, our plans are in the next 5 to 10 years, release everything, box sets, remastered, remixes, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be really cool.
Oh yeah, it's going to be amazing. Actually,
Yeah.
to get a remix of those first 3 albums is going to be phenomenal.
Especially like the first 2, because the first album, Yellow and Black Attack, I can't even listen to the first version of that. Excuse me, the second version, the remix of that, the one with the 2 extra songs. The original version I can listen to. The second version I can't, because it's drenched in reverb. It lost its balls. Soldiers Under Command, I love the energy of, but I don't like the fact there's not a lot of bass on there. The kick drums null and void. I'd love to mix and remaster that as well.
Okay, that's good.
And then September 13th was the 40th anniversary tour.
Can you believe that, man? We're going to go out.
40.
We're going to tour. We're going to do a set in old outfits with old guitars with old songs. Then we're going to take an intermission. Everyone can go get popcorn and get get a hot dog.
Buy
Then we're
some
going to come
merch.
out. Yeah, exactly. Then we're going to come out and we're going to do a new set in new outfits, new guitars, and, you know, play on the first set classic songs, the second set more modern, recent 2003 on songs, 2005 on songs. Yeah.
Something for everyone. So, and let's talk about this. You're doing the VIP a little different on that tour.
We are. And I got to tell you, man, I'll be honest with you. I'm not even sure how we're doing that VIP.
Aren't you baptizing people on your VIP?
Well, you know what? If we were to,
Did you ever try that? Baptizing everybody on their VIP? No?
first
Could
of
bring a
all,
pool?
if we were to ever do that, Jimmy, if we were to
I want
ever
to be the
do
first
that,
one. I want to be the first one. Go ahead.
we would never charge to baptize anyone.
Okay.
That would be weird. And we don't ever charge for the Bibles. When we throw out Bibles, people say all the time, "Can we buy a Bible?" We're like, "No, we don't sell them. We never will."
Yeah.
That's just weird. You don't do that. But I mean, VIPs, you know, in terms of what we're doing, I'm not even sure. I think we're doing, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're doing like a listening experience where people can come in and take part of sound check.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a documentary, just off the Stryper website. A little bit of a documentary and more a Q&A. No individual meet and greets or anything like that, but it'd be a kind of more of a Stryper experience, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, and you know what? That you if you read it off of the site, that's what it is.
Okay.
That's totally what it is. And I don't go to the website ever.
So it's a good thing Alan's around.
Good.
It's a good thing Alan's around. Phil wants to know, how does scripture inspire you, Michael, when it comes to music?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't read scripture as often as I should. I wish I read it more. I'm not a big reader, but when I do sit and read scripture, it's very inspiring. I'll tell you what I do though. When I'm writing a song, I will literally, if I have an idea for a song, I'll go to scripture to see if I can find it there. So I use a Bible, obviously, when I'm writing. I use a thesaurus when I'm writing. I use a rhyming dictionary when I'm writing. And these tools really help me, especially the Bible. So many of our words, and you know it when you hear it, end of days, for example, it's right out of Revelation. I mean, Revelation is such a powerful chapter. And, you know, it's the perfect metal chapter, right? Any metal band could write the best metal song if they use something out of Revelation. And it's powerful.
I would say 30% of all metal is based on the book of Revelations.
And you know what? You're right. You're right. I'm sure a lot of metalheads would not agree with you. They'd probably say, no way, you know, because it's just out of rebellion. But you're absolutely 100% right.
Satan, 4 horsemen, 666. I mean, the list goes on, right? The 7 seals or the 5 seals. I don't remember if 7, I guess.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's just
yeah, the beast being cast into into the pit, Battle of Armageddon. I mean, yeah, you go on.
Apocalypse.
Yeah, scary stuff.
You know what? And how much do you believe in the end of days, the book of Revelation? Like it's a very intense for anyone to read. Anyone could read it and interpret it in different ways. I mean, how do you interpret it? Well,
look, as a Christian and a believer and I put my faith in God, in Christ, I tell you, I believe the Bible. And yes, people argue, it was altered and changed and written by man, blah, 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 blah. But it's a spirit of God speaking to man. Okay. And if you believe what the scriptures say, you believe that. And I believe what the Bible says prophetically about what's to come. And I think a lot of people don't want to believe that, because, you know, a lot of people use the term, you know, it's a fairy tale or it's the genie in the sky. And I'll tell you this right now, and this has been said many times. I'd rather believe in that and be right than believe in that and be wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I really believe there is an eternity. I don't think when you die, that's it. you go into the ground and worms eat you and it's over. I don't believe that. There's too many stories and documentations of people who have died that, speak otherwise. So I believe we're going somewhere. We're all going somewhere when we die. The question is where? Where are we going? Where do you want to go? And, I put my faith in Christ, man. And I think that we're going to see some pretty frightening times if you're here on earth long enough. It's not going to be pretty. And, look at the times we live in now.
Well,
we're on the verge of World War III. Nobody wants to say that or believe that because we all live in denial as we go and party and go downtown Nashville or Vegas. Okay, that's fine. We should enjoy life and have fun and live in the moment. But at the same time, it's pretty scary out there, man. There's a lot of stuff going on. And, I think that we're in very interesting times where we should all be reevaluating our own salvation, our own souls, our own eternity. But, again, when you say something like that in today's world, you're labeled a nut job. That's fine. Whatever. I'll live as a nut job. That's how I'll live. That's totally cool. And I don't say it though doom and gloom. I say it in a joyful way. I mean, who doesn't want to go to a better place? I mean, a better place than this. I mean, this is a great place. There's a lot of great things going on here on earth. We have a lot of good times here, a lot of great memories, but who doesn't want to go to a better place? Why would you not want that?
Miss Felony Strutter says, all I know is I'm a trans girl and I've been friends with Stryper since 1988. So it's about acceptance too, right?
Absolutely. And what's her name?
Miss Felony Strutter. That's her, probably her
Felony,
handle. Her handle.
President of the fan club in Chicago, it looks like.
Well, look, man, I'll tell you this right now. People try to get us on stuff like that. Like, hey, what's your opinion of this? And, hey, you stand against it. And the thing is
Philadelphia.
I always use the term, love the sin or hate the sin. And it's like people misinterpret that. And so often we judge. Christians judge people more than anyone else. And I see it on my pages all the time, Facebook, Instagram, people coming down on me because I post a picture of Rob Halford saying he's my best singer. And then they go off of me because, he's gay, right? No, you're kidding.
The secret's out.
I still love him and respect him. And he's had an incredible effect on me as a singer. What am I supposed to do? Just throw that out the window? Because he's gay? Never. I'm not like that, man. I don't judge people like that. And I take a lot of heat for that. Because there's a lot of people that think I should. I never will. That's between them and God. It's not between them and Michael Sweet.
Well, the golden rule, right? Treat others as they want, treat others as you want to be treated. And that's basically, that's a summary that summarizes Christianity, right?
Of course. Absolutely. But I mean, sadly, we see a lot of that hatred. I don't call it judgmental attitudes. I call it flat out hatred, because the way it's said and presented is deep hatred. It's really sad because I see a lot of that. It's in this world running rampant, and it's so weird, man. I don't understand. I think the internet has opened the floodgates for hatred.
Yeah, I think so too.
Anonymous
brought it out in everybody because they can sit quietly behind a screen and say whatever they want to say. But in person to that person, they would probably never say it.
Okay, Tanvir says he wants to see Stryper in the UK. I'm not sure if he wants to see you to give you a piece of his mind, or he wants to actually see Stryper play. Tanvir, please advise. I think he wants to see you.
Let's talk about that. The 40th anniversary tour. a lot of pretty much playing all over the United States. Is there any plans for a second part of that tour, going to different areas, different countries?
Well, it always
I know
comes
what he's
down.
saying.
It always comes down to finances, and we don't tour to make money, but we certainly don't tour to lose money.
Right.
And we just can't afford to do that. But it's not about the money for us. It's not like, oh, hey, you can't give us this much and forget it. We're out of here. We are a very fair band, and we want to just go. The goal for us is to go and just perform to people and inspire people, encourage people. That's what we're all about. But we can't do so and wind up going bankrupt and losing, coming back in the red 100,000 or 200,000. Europe is very expensive. Yeah. The US is very expensive. Europe's even more expensive. To go there, to fly there, airfares are absurd. To rent a bus there, absurd. And when you're only getting 10,000 US guarantees in small venues, and the numbers don't add up always. So we can't go to Europe if we're going to lose money. If we can figure out a way to go to Europe where we break even, where we make a little money, and we can just pay everybody, their payroll, man, we're so there. We love Europe. We want to go so badly, but we haven't been able to do a tour since 2010. So it's long overdue, and it breaks our hearts that we can't go back. It's heartbreaking because, man, there are no fans like European fans. Everyone's different. We have Japanese fans, we have South American fans, Canadian fans. They're all phenomenal. But man, European fans are very unique. It's their own thing, and we love it, and we miss it, and we want to go back, but we just haven't been able to. It sucks.
You know what it is, Michael? A lot of people miss this point. You're a band. So the band is traveling, like it's a complete band traveling. Whereas you have like one artist or one singer traveling to different countries, using bands in those countries where it's cheaper to do that, right?
Yeah.
But take a band like Queensryche, take a band like Stryper. It's a band that is traveling, and that's where the costs are, because you got 4 guys or 5 guys, and you got to pay everybody equally or more or less equally, right? Yeah. So there's whereas you take one singer and you have a local band, it doesn't cost you anything really, or not much.
No, you're right. You're right. And then when you add those numbers up over a week's time or a month,
that's right,
month's time, you're all of a sudden you're looking at an astronomical number. And then you add to that, a lot of these bus companies want like money up front. You $75K, $100K up front before you even hit the road.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, where are we going to get that? And Stryper is a band that's thrived and been very successful, and we've been able to somehow sustain ourselves. We have great management, really smart people. The girls, my wife, Lisa, great with numbers. My daughter, Lena, works with us. Dave Rose, our co-manager. We've got smart people, and we have other bands contacting us all the time saying, how do you guys do it? And we help them. We say, hey, do this, 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 and that. And we give them advice all the time. But man, it's not an easy road for bands like Stryper. If you're Rolling Stones, you're pulling up, each guy's in his own limo SUV, flying in on their own private jet. They're making $1 million a show or whatever, or more. And it's like, you can do that. But if you're a band like us at this level, it's very difficult. It's a juggling act constantly.
Yeah. What about Spotify? And what is the fix to Spotify? Is the fix to Spotify, it could work. It's the idea of streaming and paying artists for the money that they're actually, they should be getting, right? Versus someone grabbing a big share of it. What do artists that are up and coming need to do to get through the streaming world and make a buck?
Well, the way the system's set up right now, the artists don't make a buck. They make pennies, if that. And, what is paid out in royalties from Spotify for all the streams, millions of streams, is nothing. So, and sadly, most people stream. That's how they listen to music. So maybe the prices, the cost of your subscription needs to go up. And maybe some laws need to be put into place where artists are paid what's rightfully theirs. Something needs to change, though, because, that's the way of the future. That is the future. That is the now. And, physical copies just aren't a reality anymore. They're not. We're very blessed with that. What some bands will release an album and sell 500 copies and they're woohoo, 500 copies.
Yeah.
Think about that. Stryper can release an album and sell 10,000 copies in the first week. I can't explain it. I don't understand it, but we have a very hardcore base of fans that will do that. Purchase physical copy, vinyl, cassettes, CDs. But then you got the other side of that coin, which is digital streaming, digital downloads, whatever, blah. Streaming, that's it. That's what it's all about. And there's just no money to be made for artists. Artists are going poor. Artists are starving based on that. Yeah. And I posted something about how we make less than minimum wage. And people are like, how can that be? It's like, what do you mean, how can that be? Average it out hourly. Look at my bank account. Look at my money. Look at the money that comes in, which you know nothing about, nor will you ever know anything about. But I'm just saying, I'm saying that we don't make a lot of money. We're not living the high life. My wife and I, we had 2 cars. We got rid of one because, we don't really need 2 cars. We don't drive a lot, but we didn't need the expense of 2 cars. And it's like, I don't have a 4-car garage with Panteras and Ferraris. Only a few bands do. So
that's the reality.
People have this assumption that, if you're in a band like Stryper or out there touring, you're making millions. You're just not. It's not true.
All right. Alan, I was wondering, can you name the 10 commandments, Alan? I just put you on the spot. Name them.
I could at one point.
Name them, Alan. Name them. Say. Come on, go. 1. Okay, I won't put you on the spot.
Again, congrats on the album. Another great step.
Let me show the album cover. Let me show the album cover here. Hold on.
Yeah, so and the thing is, too, look, I posted about the album cover today. I reached out to the label, and the thing is, it's online. You can see it. You can Google it, and there it is. And I'm like, this has been out there for a few weeks. We should just post it. Again, Stan Decker did the album cover artwork.
Beautiful. That is a beautiful album cover, actually.
It's really cool, man. We love it. And we're making a series with these album covers. Yeah. People say, why don't you change it up? Totally. And it's like, well, we're doing a series, and that's why we're kind of keeping it in the same,
Well, here you guys were on the horses, right? You're on the horses.
Exactly. Yep.
The 5 horsemen.
Yep. The 5 horsemen. Yep.
That's right. And let's see what the other series were. Here, I don't know. This wasn't part of the series, right?
Well, it was. Yeah, it kind of. Yes, with the color, and it's kind of like, a series of books, if you will.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is number, if you start from No More Hell to Pay and you come to this one, what is that, 6, I think? Is that right?
I can't even believe how many albums you have out. And it's amazing that you just keep, you got so many great ideas. And they don't end. It's like this never ending, like there's bands today that release albums and you're like, it's okay. They have 1 or 2 good songs, but you've been cranking out some quality stuff for years. It just blows my mind.
Well, man, look I'm very different as a person. When I was born and I was 2 and 3 years old, I was writing songs. And I know that sounds silly, but I was making up words and singing melodies and rocking back and forth in a chair. Music's in my blood. It's part of my DNA. And thank God, songs come easily and quickly. Like if you said, Michael, will you go write me a song? If I went over, my guitar's right over there, and I said, all right, I'll be back with you in 2 hours, I'd go write you a song and come back with the song, and you'd probably say, that's a pretty darn good song. Are you kidding me? What? It's just songs kind of flow out of me, and it because I'm so passionate about it, and I've got all these ideas. That's the way my mind works. It's very different, very interesting, and I'm very grateful for that. Stryper, this last album, is 1 song a day, you know, and I started writing right before we went in and recorded. That's the way it's been for every album. And I say that to people, and they're like, "What? What are you talking about?" I hear stories about bands that have worked for a year on an album, and they've got 40 songs, and they're going to try to pick between those 40 what's the best stuff. Then the album comes out, and it's like, oh my gosh, wow. It's very interesting. I don't know. I don't really know what to say, and I certainly don't want to be disrespectful to anybody else. And you know what? The well in Michael Sweet could dry up real fast, and I could try to go write the next album, and there's nothing. I hope that doesn't happen, but so far it hasn't happened, and songs come very easily and very quickly for me.
And what about side projects? I mean, you've always had tons of side projects. Anything else on the horizon?
I've got 16 more side projects. No, I'm kidding. No, we've got the new Iconic album.
That's why.
That hit a bump in the road. Yeah, that hit a bump in the road because Alessandro and I were co-producing it, and he's no longer with Frontiers.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So, and God bless him. Ali's an incredibly talented guy. I love him. He's brilliant. He's doing other things, but they have another guy, Aldo, who's also brilliant, fantastic. And he and I are working together on Iconic, and it's coming along. It's going to come out. It's going to be great. And then Sunbomb album just came out.
Yep.
And then we've got, I don't know if there'll be another Soul Driver album. I certainly hope so. That was fun. Very different. And then I've got a solo album in the can that's done. Inspirational. It'll come out next year. It was going to come out this year. It'll be next year. And then I've got another album I did with CJ Grimark, who's really incredible, a guitar player from Europe. And he and I have an album that's already been started as well that I know you guys are going to love. That's really cool.
Unbelievable.
And that'll be coming out. And yeah, so there's all kinds of stuff, man.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah.
On that note, I mean, I just want to tell everybody, you're the real deal. Like the enthusiasm every time a new Stryper album, right before the Stryper album's going to come out, you just can't hold it in. You just can't hold in the excitement. You know, I could see it in the email. Like Michael, we should do an interview next week. Great. Okay. Lock it in. Let's go. Here's the album. I don't even know if you cleared it with your label yet. Like, here's the album. Listen to it. Do you like it? What do you think?
Oh my gosh. You know, it's funny, Jimmy. I heard from our publicist, John, and John's a great guy. I love John. But
John Friedman.
John Friedman. He saw this online somewhere. He's like, "Did you approve this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." But you know, look,
But that's the passion. That's the passion, right?
I love what I do. I still do, and you know that day may come when I don't. I'll be honest with you. I'm not as joyful about it as I used to be. You know, and I'm talking. You go back a year, even. The wind's kind of been knocked out of my sails a little bit. You know, for the things we're being faced with, Oz's situation, you know, and you know, things that I've gone through as well. So it kind of knocks you off. It knocks you off the horse, but you got to get back on. You got to keep riding, and that's what I'm trying to do. I love what I do. I hope I get to do it longer. You know.
Yeah. I hope so too.
Do we. Yeah. Again, congratulations to all of members of Stryper, because this is another home run as far as I'm concerned. This is really a strong album. Like you said, there's something special. I don't know if it's the variations of the song, but it does have, as you said, that extra little sauce on it.
Man, I hope so. And it's so great to hear you guys say that. And we really tried. We went in and we gave it our all. We do with every album, but this album especially. And we poured everything into it. And, once it comes out, we'll see. We'll see what everyone else thinks, what the world thinks. I mean, there's always going to be people that don't like what we do.
Tanvir.
I think sadly, this is again my opinion. People have different views. My opinion, just based on what I've seen over the years, comments I've read, people I've talked to, I think a lot of times it's based on our lyrical content. People can't get past that. They just can't. It's impossible for them to. And what we sing about, it's like they don't want to hear the music because God, no, I don't want to be preached to, I don't want to hear about that. And what's really odd about that and interesting about that is I'll listen to a song that's recorded and written by a satanic band that's about Satan, and the song's really good, and I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm like, I don't believe in this, but I dig this song. Like, I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
And it's about Satan, the polar opposite of what I'm all about. But so many people won't give Stryper a chance because we sing about God. And it's just so bizarre to me. I can't wrap my head around that.
I got to tell you, Michael, and I've said this many, many times, big bands who should take Stryper on tour with them are missing out. They're completely missing out, because what you have in sort of like the touring world, you have two bands that are similar and they're just bringing in the same people. But if you bring in Stryper and another band, let's say, for example, Judas Priest, I'll just toss it out there, you'll get even more a variety of different types of metalheads going to the shows. They don't see that. I think, to what your point is saying, they stop because the message is there and they don't see the bigger picture. I think they're missing out. I'm not just saying Judas Priest. I'm just saying many bigger bands. Bringing Stryper along a big tour, they're missing out.
I think you're right. And I can't tell you how many times we've played with bands on festivals or opening or whatever it is, big bands. And that tension was in the air of like, oh crap, how's this gonna go? Oh man, King Diamond. We did a show with King Diamond. I met him. Photo went around on the internet. We played, they played. Behemoth, Judas Priest, we were all on that bill. Pantera. We fit right in. Lo and behold, what? How did that happen? Because we fit right in. Musically, we can go on a stage and hold our own and blend in and fit in, and people enjoy it and appreciate it. It's just a different message. We're not out there saying, stopping the song. Oh, hold on, guys. Listen, if you guys don't accept Jesus, you're going to go to hell. It's not like that. We're just rocking. We're up there rocking like any other band, singing about, God. But it's like people just have a hard time with that. And Priest and Stryper would be the ultimate tour, the most unusual tour ever, and the most controversial tour ever, but the coolest tour ever. Yeah. Or Stryper and Ghost. Yeah, that would work too.
That would work.
Man, I just don't understand why it never happens. We get shut down all the time. Our management reaches out to their management, and it's always no. And then you see all these other bands going out. Queensryche. I love Queensryche. Nothing against them. They get the gig or whatever. It's like, why not Stryper?
Why not Stryper? Yeah.
Why not? It makes no sense.
Well, we're here to make sense. We're here to make sense and tell the world.
We could go out and do a tour with Maiden. We could open for Maiden, and I guarantee we already did it once in Spain. Everyone loved it.
Yeah.
Nobody left. Nobody left, and it's like we could do that in the U.S. We could do that in Europe, and it would probably be killer, and it'd be very different. Instead of so often it's the band's announced it's opening for this band or that band, and you're like, ugh, it's not really a surprise, or it's not really exciting. And it's like, can put Stryper on there, man. Let's make it exciting.
Well, every time Iron Maiden goes out, I'm always disappointed in their opening bands. There's a few exceptions here and there, but I'm like, really? Oh God, I got to sit through that. Oh man, couldn't they pick somebody better? Like, to me, I miss the excitement of the '80s where you had two great bands, like a great opener and a great. We saw Ozzy and Queensryche opened up for Ozzy on that tour. It was like,
exactly.
That's a friggin' package, man.
Yeah,
that's what we're missing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it could just be that the management or the band doesn't want to be, shown up, or, maybe the band's too good opening or whatever. And some of that does go on. That's a reality. Yeah. And I'm not suggesting Stryper would show up Maiden or anyone like that. I'm just saying that happens. That's a true valid mentality. Often I've seen it from behind the scenes. But yeah, man, I mean, we would fit perfectly on any bill. We would even be able to go out and open for a band like Styx,
it's true.
Because we could, or Journey, we could go out and open, we could play Calling on You and Honestly. And, I'm trying to think of other poppy songs, Waiting for a Love That's Real. And, we could do a little bit of a lighter set. Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about Stryper. We got multiple sides,
Yep. Well, I'm happy we had this brainstorming session here today. All right. I think we're good. I know there's a lot of chat going on that I've ignored, but it's all good. I think you've answered a lot of these cool questions. Would love to see a Stryper King Diamond tour, or a Ghost or Maiden or Priest. Let's go all metal, all in the family. Yellow and Black Attack tour. So that's what Rich says. So on that note, Michael, thanks again for being part of the show. It's always a pleasure.
We're grateful.
Yes, grateful.
You guys, look at, and I wrote a song because you're so grateful, just for you.
Dedicated to us.
There you go.
You guys have always been there and supported the band, and I tell you what, that takes guts, because not everyone does. And that's right. We support you. It's so awesome to see what you guys have done and how you've built everything up. It's so cool, and we're always there.
Yeah, right. For you. You've been there since the beginning.
So much. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Have a great night.
All right, Alan and Jimmy, you guys be good. Take care.
Yeah. Take care.